Welcome to our webinar on process mining and task mining. As I was going through and building the presentation, I thought versus was a little bit antagonistic. So I'm going to focus on process mining and task mining together today. My name is Daniel Hughes. I'm the Vice President at Mindsy, and Mindsy is the leading process mining software company that's founded and headquartered in North America. I've spent the last several years helping companies use process mining to improve business processes from things like conventional procure to pay or order to cash to more unconventional use cases like EV charging, electric vehicle charging, construction planning for buildings, and even modeling aircraft flights or the queuing of users or people to get on aircraft flights. Like I mentioned today, we're going to look at a couple of use cases in process mining and task mining. We'll focus on what are the definitions around process mining and task mining, or definitions of process mining and task mining. What are both the pros and the cons for each of them? What are use cases of each individually? And then use cases of both together. If you have questions, the Q&A section is open, so go ahead, you can type those in. And at the end of the webinar, I will save some time and try to answer as many of those as I can live. And if not, I will have our team follow up with you and answer those offline. So there's been quite a bit of confusion in the market around process mining, task mining, process intelligence, process discovery. A lot of that has been generated by vendors. I know that one vendor in specific came out with what they called process mining, which was mostly desktop recording until they released an actual process mining tool, and then they changed their definition of their product. But Gartner does have some helpful definitions for both process mining and task mining, and we'll take those straight from the Gartner website. So process mining, according to Gartner, is a technique designed to discover, monitor, and improve real processes by extracting data from the event logs of systems. So that's one key to the process mining definition. Process mining, as they continue, process mining includes automated process discovery, again, from an event log, conformance checking, comparing the way you execute process to an ideal model, social network, organizational mining, simulation of models, extending the models to sub-processes, prediction, and history-based recommendation. So we go a little bit deeper beyond just the definition. How does that actually work? How does that look? What can we use process mining for? Because process mining uses audit logs that have happened in the past and are currently happening, process mining has the ability to look at transactions in the past. So everything that's happened as long as you've been using the transactional system, present, everything that happened today, and even predicting future transactions based on AI and machine learning algorithms. It has the ability to look at all variations of a process that has ever happened. So every single way that you've executed your process, process mining can give you a view into that. Process mining's applicable for process discovery, performance review, conformance checking, identifying automation potential, allows you to calculate cycle times, identifies bottlenecks in your process. So everything that happens in the process that's inside of a system. And it monitors processes for overall improvement for automation, including creating KPIs and dashboards and alerts on when your processes processes are deviating from your standard, or when it detects things that might be going wrong. So what are the data requirements for process mining? Basically, since it uses data in your system, it only needs three pieces of information to be able to reverse engineer the process. First, it needs the name of steps or events that happen in your process. Two, it needs a timestamp of when those events happened. And then three, it needs a case ID to be able to track a process from the start to finish, even if it's across systems. So with those three pieces of information from your transactional systems, process mining can reverse engineer every single way that your process was executed. On top of that, process mining allows you to add attributes to the data model so that you can do comparisons. So an attribute might be the person executing the step in the process. It might be in procure to pay, the vendor that you're placing the order with and you're looking to receive goods from. In order to cash, it might be the customer that you're delivering the product to. Across all processes, it might be things like division or product or location or the date that you expected to either get payment or make the payment. All of these attributes can be added to the data model to allow you to do things like comparisons, compare process execution between divisions or between locations or between products. And all of those can be then combined into KPIs or dashboards so that you can monitor the way your process has been executed. So in short, process mining is focused on transactional systems and mining the data in those systems to reverse engineer your business processes. We'll come back and do a comparison in a minute. Task mining, on the other hand, according to Gartner, is a complementary approach to process mining that infers useful information from event data in the user interface logs or captured through computer vision. So according to Gartner, these user interface logs describe single steps in a process done by a user on a workstation. So think keystrokes, mouse clicks, copy and paste, navigating between screens or websites. So it's all of the tasks that happen on a workstation done by a user captured through screen scraping or natural language processing or things like that. So if we look at it a little bit more in depth, task mining, instead of looking at the end-to-end process, records a subset of tasks done by users on desktops. So typically, you're not going to try to record every step in a process of every transaction done by users. That would just be too much data to try to compile and sort through. You're going to look at a specific task that a user does, record them doing it, and then map that into where it fits in your process. The use cases for task mining are typically around automation, identifying how to build automation for what users do, or trying to measure employee productivity. Is there a sequence of clicks, copies, paste, navigations that employees can do consistently to determine what makes an employee productive on their desktop versus another employee? Task mining is really good at documenting specific tasks for process design document creation. So if you're trying to create your PDDs for your automation steps, you can record a task, record somebody or a group of users doing that task and turn that into your PDD. And unlike process mining, Task mining captures the manual tasks completed outside of ERP systems. So things that you do in spreadsheets or email or websites, or copying and pasting data from one system to another, or even you know typing data off of a document into another system. Um, so it's because it's limited to capturing tasks on a desktop, you're typically not going to look to calculate overall cycle times across all of your transactions in your system. You're probably not going to use task mining to go and look at every transaction that in your procure to pay process that happened across all of the different steps in the process. You're not necessarily going to look for step-based bottlenecks. But once you identify a bottleneck, task mining can help you understand what steps is the user taking that's leading to that bottleneck at that particular step. So if we move on to compare the two, right? Task mining and process mining share the same goal of improving process efficiency. The main difference is their area of focus. Right? Process mining is better suited for discovery of inefficiencies in organization-wide processes. It enables you to gain a deep understanding of your processes using event logs that you get from your system of record. A system of record are the applications that you use in your process. Maybe that's SAP or Oracle or Salesforce or something like that. Process mining displays maps of your processes with data and metrics to help you recognize performance, conformance, and automation or areas for automation. And typical processes include accounts receivable or order to cash. Task mining, better suited for discovering tasks happening on the desktop. It enables you to zoom in to specific desktop tasks that you might have found during your process mining analysis. It helps you understand how your company performs the specific tasks by monitoring and recording what the user does on their desktop and collecting data from those actions. You'll be able to gain insights from that data that'll let you know how your processes are performed, find common mistakes that are happening for your users, and identify specifically what task in a step can be automated. So the scope of process mining is end-to-end processes and all the sub-processes associated with it. For task mining, it's specific steps and actions within a task or in an event in your process. Process mining gets its data from IT event logs, where task mining gets data from mouse clicks, from keystrokes, copying and pasting, etc. Process mining uses algorithms, data mining algorithms, to understand how a end-to-end process is executed, where task mining uses things like OCR or optical character recognition, text mining, pattern recognition, or natural language processing to understand what happens on a user desktop. The focus of process mining is the entire end-to-end business process, even as it goes across departments and is executed by lots and lots of people in the organization. Task mining is going to be focused on a specific user and what they're doing in a specific task. And process mining granularity only gets down to events or tasks that happen in a process, or task mining takes it the next level lower and identifies what does a user actually click on, read, view, copy, paste, navigate to in the event, in the specific step in their process. Process mining, if we look at a time frame, process mining can look into the past. So the time frame for process mining is all transactions past to future, where task mining cannot look in. If you haven't recorded what the users are doing on their desktop, then you can't look at what they've done in the past. So if you want to know why you have late deliveries over the past 6 months to a specific customer, Task mining is not going to help you with that. It can tell you why you delivered late over the next 12 months, but not necessarily what happened in the past. Difference in what systems are available. So process mining only focuses on tasks that happen in a transactional system, where task mining can pull information from not only or from not from ERP systems, but from any system that the user interacts with on their desktop. The analytics, process mining, you can add unlimited process and attributes. So you can add things like customer, you can add things like PO number, you can add PO amounts if you wanted to look at, do you have a difference in your process from high value POs to low value? You get specific line item data from your purchase orders if you want to look at that. Task mining is going to be a little bit more limited in the attributes that you can add, because you're focused on end user or user interactions. Process mining refresh rates could be anything from, we have some customers that only want to look at their quarterly views, all the way down to minute by minute continuous transaction monitoring from the ERP system. Task mining, you're going to take snapshots of transactions. You're going to record what happens you're going to record transactions on desktops, take those back for the machine learning algorithms to figure out what's not relevant to your process, and then have a snapshot of that. And then dashboarding, process mining is really built for dashboarding, looking at any KPI, comparing your process execution to those KPIs, and having a real executive view into what's going on with an end-to-end process. Or task mining is more going to be down in the weeds and looking at how did this particular user or these particular sets of users execute a task on their desktop. So the way process mining and task mining is deployed, the attributes, the data that's available, leads to a number of different use cases for each one of the technologies. Process mining use cases are typically, again, end-to-end processes that cross departments, things like order to cash or procure to pay, or identifying bottlenecks for RPA. Auditing and compliance checking. Had a customer that used auditing of their request to pay process, and their internal auditors actually used process mining to understand where they have maverick buying, or where they have duplicate orders, or split POs, things like that, that are problems with their internal controls. Process mining is really good at customer journey. So if you want to understand what your customer goes through to purchase or in support, process mining can take all the data from those systems and reverse engineer that process for you. And then looking at end-to-end process optimization. If there is a continuous improvement or process excellence team in the organization, they can take process mining, pull data from the transactional system, identify every single way that the process has been executed over the last 6 to 12 months, and take that to the business to show them where they have opportunities to improve the execution of the process. And even, further, not less common use cases are, again, electric vehicle charging, where we were able to pull data from IoT sensors to show what the process was from the time the customer wanted to charge their Tesla to the time that they paid for the charge at the end of the process. And all the steps, all the communications, the cell towers, the satellites, the internal systems, the charging station, all the communications that went back and forth between those systems. We did something similar in airplane flights. So taking sensor data off the airplane to show door closed, ready for takeoff, altitude, speed, acceleration, all the way down to flight attendant call button presses to reverse engineer an entire flight. Task mining use cases are a little bit different. So once you've identified the bottlenecks that you want to automate, task mining can record what actually happens at that step, to show you what you need to automate, what's specific button clicks and copies and paste and types and navigation an RPA or automation tool could execute for you. Unifying process variants for higher efficiency. If you have multiple people that are doing copy and paste in different orders on their desktop, you have some people that can enter an invoice in 30 seconds and some people enter an invoice in a minute and a half. Task mining can identify what they're doing differently, how they're navigating through the interfaces on their desktop to be able to be more efficient. And then improving the user experience. Where do people click? Where on their desktops? How do they navigate through the actual application? If we wanted to combine the two, a scenario would look something like this. So with process mining, we have 4 steps: capture the invoice, extract the data, validate the fields, export to the ERP, right? All of this happens and is logged in your ERP system. Process mining pulls that data out, identifies all of the major steps that happens in your process, can show you loops and rework, where you have errors, how long the time between each step takes, how long it takes to actually do each step, how much waiting you have at each step of the process. But if you wanted to know exactly what the user does in extract invoice, task mining, you can go to their desktop, record what they're doing in that step of the process, and task mining will show you that they click to open an email. They click to open the invoice attachment. They copy the subtotal amount from the invoice, open their ERP, and paste it into SAP. So by combining the two, you get the overall process view from process mining. You can identify that extract invoice takes a long time and it's really expensive, and then task mine that step on the desktop to figure out exactly what the user's doing and what components of that event could actually be automated. So a joint use example, I think, is we kind of went through it already, but use process mining, the audit logs, to get an overview of your process performance, identify the bottleneck steps. Task mine, record on the desktop the bottleneck steps to find the systems, the screens, the fields, the clicks that the user actually touches to do the step that we've identified as the bottleneck. Take the log that task mining creates. Task mining creates a log of all the steps, all the times that happens, and load that log, transform that log into your process mining map to show you exactly what happened in the step, in the event of that you identified in process mining. So now your event, your map now includes the overall step and then has a sub process that's a task or subtask inside of the step that came from your process mining log. Actually had a customer that task mined a claims process or claims tasks, and then needed to get a better overall view of what the end-to-end process looked like. So then they came in and process mined the whole end-to-end claims process and inserted the audit log or the log from their task mining to get a complete picture of everything that happened. So once you build out your map with task mining and combine that with your process mine map, the task mining log can create your PDD. And then once you're automating that step, you can use process mining or to simulate automation rates to determine how your process would improve. So let's say you decide you need to automate step two. And now it takes no time. There's no people doing it. It immediately flows through. What process mining can do is simulate, all right, that step's gone. That was our bottleneck. Does the bottleneck simply shift to another step in the process? Does the bottleneck shift from step two to step three? And now we don't have enough people executing that step, and our overall cycle time didn't improve through the automation. So you can use process mining to do that simulation. And then process mining can then monitor the process performance once the automation's introduced. So it can monitor how the process has changed. Did your cycle time change in the real world? Are your bots, your automations executing flawlessly, or do you have a lot of rework coming from jobs that the bots or the automations did? And then, overall continuously use process mining to keep finding bottlenecks, find the next continuous improvement step you should work on, find if there's rework happening from the bots or from other issues, other steps in the process, and then find if there are any conformance issues. And if your process is still being executed, not the ideal way. So hopefully that helped. I know there was a lot of information there. We do have a couple of questions. We have a couple of questions in the chat. So one of them is, how is task mining different than RPA? So we went over this a little bit, but task mining actually records what's going on the desktop. RPA automates what's happening on the desktop. Right? So task mining would record what the user does, identify areas that RPA could automate, and then RPA, or robotic process automation, will actually create a bot to automate data entry or automate copy and pasting once task mining tells you what's going on. Right. I think, oh, here we go. This is a really, really good question. How does task mining record the actions done by the user? Great, great question. So in order for task mining to work, you have to install a desktop recorder on any machine that you'd like to see what's happening. So every user that you want to record needs a recorder, a desktop recorder installed on their machine, which is one of the reasons you can't really look at every way transactions are executed in your business, because that would require a desktop recorder on every single machine, which would send everything that happened on the desktop, or at least in the applications that you choose to record, to a queue that needed to be sorted out into what process were they working on, what transaction they were working on. So task mining works best when you have a small set of users that are executing a specific process. You install the desktop recorder, tell them to go execute the process or the task, execute the steps. I'm going to record it. I'm going to take it back and log it. If you try to go wider than that, you, especially in Europe, you could end up with some privacy issues because you're now recording everything that users do on their desktop. Where with process mining, you don't have to install anything on the desktop. You simply pull data from backend logs that show you the way the process is executed. So what are the technical skills to learn process mining? So primarily for process mining, you need to get data from external systems. So the biggest skill gap that I end up seeing is one, understanding where the data lives in the backend or ERP systems that you need to connect to. So for instance, when we work with SAP to process mine a procure to pay um, process, we extract data from over 20 tables inside of SAP, bring that into our system, and then set up an automated data transformation to turn that into a log that we can then report on in mine. So usually the biggest skill gap is understanding where the data lives in the system you want to mine and how to transform that data from 20 tables into a single audit log that you can then report on. Beyond that, it's really data visualization and data analytics. And that seems to be a little bit easier if you've chosen a problem that you would like to address. And then the last question I have time for today, and we're already 3 minutes over. Does task mining include variants of the same tasks that are completed? And it can. Um, Most of the times you want to record a small subset of users, probably your expert users executing the task. Let's say you take 5 users, have them execute the task 5 times, you'll end up with 25 executions of the process or of the task that you've recorded. If any of those are done differently, if a user does the task differently and you record that one user to another, you will have some variants of the same process. But because you can't record 100 people doing 1 million transactions and be able to sort and sift through that, you're not going to be able to find every variant of the way that task was completed. That's what process mining does. Process mining, on the other hand, takes every transaction that's been executed in your business over the last 12 or 24 months and shows you every single variant of that process. So great questions today. I hope you found this informative. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, phone, email, on our website. You can chat with some of our agents there, or feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Again, Daniel Hughes at Mindsy, and I appreciate your time.